Welcome to the I'm Such a Pisces podcast, where we talk all things Pisces while taking an explorative journey into astrology.
Brought to you by two Piscean friends.
I'm Christine.
And I'm Shelby. Welcome to our show. Hello.
Hello.
We're back.
We're back another week.
Can you believe we're already on episode 6? That's insane.
So crazy.
We're really moving through these episodes, I feel like.
Yeah. I'm like, we have a podcast. And, we're probably going to be joined by Keith. So if you hear some barking in the background,
He also can't believe we're on episode 6.
Right. And he's like, why are we still doing this?
This girl has come over to my house 6 times, and
right.
I am sick of it.
Get her out of here.
All the love for Keith. All the love, even if he doesn't love me back, it's okay. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
He's very vocal right now.
Whatever.
So.
You know what? Some podcast production company sponsor us so we can do this in a studio.
Hello.
And then you won't get the Keith noises.
How many studios are there in Nashville? Come on.
So many.
So many studios. Help, please.
Should we get into CoStar?
Let's get into it.
You were telling me before we started recording that CoStar has really been giving you some things lately.
CoStar has been really just hitting me, kind of in the gut this week. It's like, we've talked about off mic, some challenges.
Some challenges.
And so CoStar has, just continued to hone in on those. Like, look at this. Like, okay, I'm paying attention.
Some emphasis.
Yep.
Well, what's it telling you to do today?
So, today, let's see.
I'm going to sip this lovely tea that Christine made for me.
Yes. What would happen if you tried to teleport back there?
Oh, Christine! No!
I intentionally waited to read this on the mic just so you could have that natural reaction.
No! After that whole conversation we just had. No wonder. It all makes sense. It all makes sense.
That's where, that's where they're starting today.
All right.
Yep. So we'll get into the do's and don'ts.
Yeah. Let's get into it.
So do frescoes.
Frescoes. Okay.
Is it, the paintings, like frescoes, art?
Frescoes? Or we're going to dine al fresco?
Or
We're going to sit
al fresco?
outside? Maybe? I don't know. We were just sitting outside.
We were just, yes, watching the sidewalk.
So much to see out there. So much to see.
There is a lot to see in my neighborhood. There's a lot to see. Though pretty calm today. A little cool breeze,
Yeah.
But maybe this afternoon things will liven up. Applause. Yay. My birthday's this weekend. Yes. Applause. Yay. Shelby's birthday just passed.
Yay. We're such Pisces.
Yes. And pulp.
Pulp? Gross.
Pulp. I really don't prefer the pulp. Like, take it out.
Yeah, I'm not.
Take it out.
I'm not a fan. Maybe we should have had mimosas.
Right. See, man.
We tried to give y'all a nice sober episode.
Right.
A daytime episode,
Somewhat.
if you will. You can listen to this on your. Well, yeah, questionable.
But we
Yeah.
tried to give you a non alcohol infused.
A little less of a nighttime vibe.
Yes.
It's daytime. It's like the middle of the day. We're trying to be here.
We're having tea.
Yeah. It's a vibe.
It's
a different vibe, but it's a vibe nonetheless. Right. What are your don'ts?
What are my don'ts? So, secrets.
Mine told me not to do secrets a couple weeks ago.
See? Well, they know us, right?
No.
Pisces and our secrets.
We're prone to them.
We like a secret.
Can't help it.
No secrets today. So, all right. No pessimism.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, keep it uplifted.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, okay. We can do that.
And people pleasing.
Ooh, yeah. Don't do that.
That's a struggle.
Such a struggle. Always.
So it's really, it's in its mental health bag or whatever this week. Just like getting into your traumas and all your things. Talking about what would happen if you went back.
What would happen? I can't believe it said that. I can't believe it said that. Christine's having some things from her past reappear here and there.
Here and there. So Shelby, I hope your co-star is, a little more tame.
It is. It's pretty low key today, actually.
Yes.
So, I cheated because I look at it as soon as I wake up. It really dictates my day, probably more than it should. But it said turn off the noise.
Oh, okay.
So I, had my nice slow morning routine.
Yes.
Just kind of vibed silently.
I vibed silently.
Which I loved it.
Yes. That is a vibe, though. A nice slow morning. Like, listen.
Yeah, it was good.
Everything.
It's really nice to not be at work. I have the week off. I just got back from out of town. Yes. I'm back in my own space. Really just trying to curate a vibe. It's nice. Feels good.
I feel it.
My dues include phone calls.
Okay.
Which is funny. I just said I have to call Melissa after this. We have to have a conversation
right.
related to something not about the podcast at all.
Get the calls in.
Waxing poetic.
Oh.
I feel like that's here we are. Waxing poetic
here on the mic.
I feel like I'm the least, but I'm the less, not least, but I feel like of the two of us, I'm less poetic. I feel like I've only written bad poetry in my life.
Oh. Well, I don't know that I've written good poetry because I never share my artwork. So who knows?
Who knows? And then FM radio.
Oh, specific.
So, I guess I'm turn that on the way home, I guess. Maybe I'll win some concert tickets or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Hey, listen to Dolomite 101.
My don'ts include spending money. That's for
okay.
real.
Yeah.
Good advice. Thank you.
Once you come back from out of town, yeah. That's always the vibe.
My birthday just passed. You know how it's your birthday and you're like, let me just treat myself.
Yes.
Says me.
As you should.
Rarely denies myself anything. Ever.
Also, Pisces. Yep.
Yeah. Don't shit talk.
Okay.
So we're gonna keep it clean.
We're gonna keep it. We're not. This isn't a shit talk episode. I feel like this is. Yeah.
I agree. We're not talking about any signs in a negative way.
No.
I'll hold my opinions closely. And then neutrals. So don't do neutrals.
No neutral. Okay.
So I guess I gotta go change because all of my clothes are neutral.
Right. Like, oh no.
Here we are in the green colored couch.
Right. Like it's somewhat neutral space. I'm like, there's color, but we are. Yeah. Like, oh.
I'll go home and put on a hot pink shirt or something. I don't know.
Right.
Let's do what we can. Also, we usually don't do these, but I just think this one is really funny today. Yeah. You know how at the bottom of your co-star page it gives you icebreakers?
Yes.
And it tells you what your friend's thing is too. So this week's icebreaker, it says, or today's is dating you is like, and then it gives you what yours is and then what like 3 of your friends are.
Oh.
It says dating you is like having an imaginary friend.
Me?
Me.
Dating
Not
you?
Me. Dating me.
You was like having an imaginary friend.
Yeah. It's funny. I feel like...
How do you interpret that?
I can't stop thinking about... it was either last week or the week before where you read one of the co-star lists, like one of the meme lists that was like... what kind of friend a Pisces is, and a Pisces is like tells you they'll be there for you no matter what and then ghosts you. I feel like that's what this is giving.
Right. I think I have this friend. I feel her there sometimes, but I don't see her.
Yeah, that's funny. I just had to throw that out there.
Oh.
Anyway, that's the Co-Star Chronicles.
I don't think I get that. I'm like, wait, what is that? Yeah, I'm like, show it to me. Is this an iPhone thing?
Maybe. Oh, I hope not. You just have to keep scrolling.
Yeah, no. No, I don't have that icebreaker in the middle.
Ooh, yeah, it's like, I guess I started getting it when I had more friends, and it like switches
Oh, maybe
out
I don't have enough friends.
who everybody is. Oh,
I think I only have 2 friends on CoStar.
oh, am I one of them?
Yes.
Oh, good, awesome. I was hoping I was. You should add Jack. He's on there.
Oh, okay. I will find Jack. I need more CoStar friends. Find me.
It's fun because then it tells you like what your compatibility is with everybody.
Yes.
And you know all that. Anyway. That's all I got for CoStar. Do you want to roll right into relatable content?
Let's roll into it.
Okay.
I feel like we've got a short relatable content today.
Yeah, we each have a thing.
Yes. So I have a meme. Where's my meme? I guess it's a meme. I just call all these things memes. This isn't. I guess it's a text.
Everything I find on the internet is
I just call it a meme.
Yeah.
If I found it on Instagram, it's a meme. So it says Pisces. If you hear someone talking to themselves, just go with it. It's Pisces season. Just leave them alone. And I'm like, oh, is that just during Pisces season? Because I'm like, I talk to myself all the time. I'm like, did we talk about that before? Is that a thing?
We haven't. Okay, so I have a story about talking to yourself.
Okay.
To myself, to people talking to themselves.
Yes.
So Victoria, good friend of mine, Taurus, big grounding energy.
Yes.
We lived together for a little while in college.
Mm-hmm.
And what I learned about her very quickly is that she is constantly talking to herself. Constantly talking to herself. Like,
yes.
all day, every day. And I would do this thing where I would be like, she talking to me? No. She's talking to herself. She's talking to herself.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, it's a thing. And it cracked me up because sometimes I would just listen in to the things that she was saying. And speaking of shit talking,
not listening. Oh no.
It was usually just like, and she didn't really care.
Yeah.
Also, because she was, she knew I was home.
Right.
She knew that I knew that she was talking to herself. But usually it's just mad shit talking about someone or something. Anyway, I saw her.
That is great.
I saw her a lot this week.
Yeah.
And we hung out at her house, and I had a moment where we were doing something. We were like setting up we had a birthday party this weekend for me.
Yeah.
Shouts out to my best friends for throwing me a birthday party. You really love me. She was like setting up and doing things, and I had to reorient myself to like when I lived with her, because I kept being like, huh? What's that? Are you talking to me? Do you need me? And she was just talking to herself.
Just talking to herself.
It's the whole thing. So I associate it because Jack sometimes talks to himself.
Mm-hmm.
I tell him he should talk to himself more because sometimes when he talks to me, he is just externalizing a problem for himself. Like, he just has to talk through it. It doesn't really matter if I'm there or not. And I'm like, you can just do this
with yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I kind of think it's a Taurus thing. I don't know.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I do have, Taurus ascendant, so that could also be part of it. But I'm like, oh, is this a Pisces thing? Because I just was like, I just talk to myself. Now, I will say, I'm not as comfortable doing that when someone else is around.
Fair.
So, like, maybe that's the Taurus piece. Like, Taurus, like, yeah, I talk to myself.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, no, if I know that you're in the room, I'm not going to talk to myself.
That's fair.
But I might really want to. Like, I really need to say this out loud, because I think it is like I need to say this out loud.
It's a good, I think I should do it more. I think it would be good for me to externalize some of the thoughts in my head, because I am talking to myself, but it's like an internal narrative.
Yes.
It's not like I'm not externalizing it.
Yeah.
I think I would be better at talking if I was externalizing some of the thoughts that are happening in my head.
Yeah.
And I also think they would help me go, what the fuck? Like, why is that a thought that you're having? Like, I feel like it would be a good thing for me to just externalize and be like it's a helpful way to reframe.
It really can be helpful. Like, I mean, it's not like, I think the thing is, like, people think when you're talking to yourself, like, you're having like a back and forth conversation.
Right.
And it's like, no, it's literally, you're just externalizing like what's happening. You're like, okay, let me just say this out loud.
Yeah.
And like, oh, okay, when I say that out loud, it actually sounds like this.
Right.
Like, oh, okay, and now I can, process that better. Yeah.
I think it's a really healthy thing to do as long as like you're talking and processing through it, and there's not like a different voice talking back to you.
That's right. Now that's a whole different clinical thing happening.
Then you should maybe
talk to someone about that.
Telling someone that that's happening for you. That's maybe not,
because that's not as
But
that can be unsafe.
I think talking to yourself just in an externalization processing kind of way is really healthy.
Yeah.
Oh,
Thank you.
It's my turn to get the next
for normalizing that.
yeah, exactly. I'm here to normalize all kinds of things that
here
people
we are.
think are weird.
We're so empathetic. And so understanding.
The most empathetic people are the ones who are on a podcast being like, I'm empathetic.
Yes. It's us.
This is tangent, but Jack and I really like watching Survivor.
Okay.
Got into it during the pandemic.
Oh.
I don't know.
Interesting. Okay.
This girl on Survivor, we started watching, there's a new season, and we watched the first episode last night.
Mm-hmm.
And this girl is a therapist, and she's like, I'm gonna use my therapy skills to play a really good social game and blah blah blah. And I immediately was like, I hate this. I hate this. I was like, I can't imagine my therapist being on Survivor and then going back to therapy with that person. And being, she was playing a terrible social game. Like, she was
of
really,
course she was.
Like, triggered by everyone, and like, it was just, it was really bad.
That sounds very on brand for a therapist. Yeah, like, what? I'm gonna use my therapy. Stop.
Yeah, please don't.
So okay, this is not related, but it reminded me because you said therapist about the thing that came up the other day. So I was listening to this astrology podcast, and I had this like therapist rant moment. So they're talking, and they're just having conversation. And all of a sudden, someone's like, "Yeah, like, do you know your attachment style?" I'm like, wait, what? Yeah. Like, is this happening? Yes, it's happening. So, I think I might be like anxious attachment, I have anxious, and they're just like kind of talking about it. And I'm like, okay, I'm trying to like go with it, but I'm like, is this a thing now? Are we like,
it's turned into a very pop psychology.
Yes.
Type
yes. Thing. Then they went on to say that there was a quiz that you could take online to find out your attachment style. And I'm like, what the fuck?
I don't think that is how... I don't think an online quiz is going to tell you...
There's so many more factors. And one of the people on the show was talking about, like, well, there's something, there was something in her family history that kind of differed from like what the test was asking, and I'm like, exactly, because this is something that you talk to with therapists about. Like, this is not a pop subject. And so it kind of went also back to this previous conversation we had a few weeks ago with like internet therapy and there's internet therapists in this very pop way that we're trying to get the message of mental health and like educate people.
That's great.
But it's kind of, we've gone on to the other side now, where like we just trivialize things.
Everything. I saw a tweet last night from Josie Duffy Rice, who is she's a lawyer, but she's like a very popular Twitter person.
Yeah,
she's very funny. She said, why is it that when people self-diagnose after watching TikToks, it's always like, I have ADHD and not, I'm a narcissist.
Right. Right.
It's like, no one is like...
No one's claiming that.
Right. Exactly. So it's like, if you're doing that, maybe check in with a therapist, okay?
Yes.
Just
And there's so much of that, because that was one of the things that came up. It's like they're the popular, like, diagnoses, which
like
you don't have a diagnosis, so you cannot, you don't have a diagnosis.
No, you don't.
But, you might relate with some of these things, and maybe you should talk to a mental health professional to confirm those things.
Exactly. You have to do the follow-up work.
Right. Because, it's like going to, it was like the whole WebMD thing. Like, we're diagnosing ourselves with cancer, and then you go to the doctor, hopefully, and maybe it was a kidney infection.
Right.
And so...
Or maybe you just ate something that...
Or maybe, right.
Gas.
Like, there's so many, a professional can rule certain things out, or say, oh, well, these things mirror each other, or, this can look like this, or trauma.
Right.
It's
so much trauma.
There's so much. Trauma does a lot of things.
Yeah.
It looks like a lot of things. So, I
know
had a whole, like, oh my God moment.
Yes.
Because I'm like, this is, and they're kind of just talking about it like a kind of funny, casual way, which, was, I'm like, it's kind of entertaining, but like, as someone who works, like, as a therapist, or has worked as a therapist, like, it's like very cringe, like, oh no.
Yeah. I know we talked about that like a couple weeks ago. I feel like that is going to continue to be like a recurring theme on this podcast, because it's like, I don't know.
It's in the way of like, oh, what's your sign? It's like, what's your attachment style? I'm like, wait a minute.
No.
And also the other side of this is like, you can work towards secure attachment.
Right.
So like, you don't have to just be an anxiously attached person.
Exactly. You're not stuck in it. And
so seek therapy, people. Like,
also, the amount of people who are actually insecurely attached versus like what that, I would love to know what that quiz tells you.
So I don't know what the quiz tells you, but I also saw something earlier today on Pinterest. Some statistic about 67% of people are insecurely attached.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I'm like, but the next step is to go seek, like, help.
Right.
Like, work on those things.
Right.
Because it's not like you're Myers-Briggs, like.
Yes, exactly. It's
like,
not,
yes, I'm avoidance.
I'm an Enneagram too.
Right.
Like,
right.
Okay. They're different. They're different things.
This is something, this is very different.
Fun,
right.
Very detrimental to the way that you operate in the world.
Exactly.
Like, see a therapist.
Yes.
A good one at that.
Yes, please. So anyways, that's our, therapy rant.
Therapy corner.
Yes.
Okay, well, I have one more piece of relatable content for us. And this one I think it'll spark a fun discussion. So I found this tweet. I was scrolling through our Twitter account, and I follow Shoddy Astrology.
Ooh, okay.
SHAWTY Astrology.
This is gonna be fun.
she's got a verified account, so I'm taking this is I'm into it. She tweeted, or they tweeted, I'm not sure. The house that Saturn is in your birth chart shows the type of quiet time you need in order to reduce stress. So, for example, if you have Saturn in your second house, it's very important that you have peace and quiet while you're eating.
Oh, okay.
So I'm scrolling through the replies and just kind of looking. My Saturn is in the 7th house.
Okay.
Which is the house of partnerships, relationships, marriage, which we know from the episode that we did a few weeks ago. So all of that kind of thing, close associates, business partners, peers, etc.
Okay.
Which means that I really value friendships and partnerships in which we can share a comfortable silence.
Oh, okay. Yes.
So
I love that.
Yeah.
We don't always have to talk.
Right.
We can just hang. We can just be together.
Yeah.
Just be.
Do you know, I know we talked about it, but do you remember what
Did I put it in this? Let's see if I put it in this album. Okay.
If not, I can pull up your Cafe Astrology because it's in our shared drive.
Yeah. I'm like, I think I put our Saturn.
Also, I listened.
Oh, I didn't put the house.
Oh.
Okay. No.
I listened to last week's episode and heard myself clacking on the computer.
Oh, really?
The whole time, and here I am doing it again. Sorry, y'all. Maybe you are into the ASMR now.
Yes. Listen, we're producing as we go, okay?
Like I said, if you guys want to support us,
right? There's
help us hire a producer.
Absolutely. There's a button somewhere. Maybe we'll figure out how to direct you to it. Yeah. You can support the podcast.
And my Venmo is no. I'm just kidding.
Right. Like you can most definitely send your love offerings.
Right. Of all kinds.
Yes. I could have also tried to pull that up myself.
Oh, it's okay. Edit this out later.
I love when we say that and we never edit it out.
I know.
I'm like, this is gonna become like a funny thing in our show, like the things that we say we're gonna edit out.
I have edited out a few long pauses.
Oh, you have? Oh.
Most of the time, I don't.
Just like we're gonna edit it out. No, it's fine. You can hear us working. Saturn.
Scorpio.
Oh, you know what?
7th house.
Okay.
Yours is in the 7th house as well.
Oh.
I believe.
Okay. I'm like, why didn't I have this whole app that I was just talking about on the podcast like last week or the week before. And I'm like, why didn't I just pull it up on here?
It's okay. If I'm reading this correctly, I think yours is also in the 7th house.
Perfect. Okay.
Which makes us very compatible friends.
Yeah.
Can we share a comfortable
I feel like that's true.
You think so?
I think so.
Yeah.
I'm like, what, is this it? Yes. Okay. I remember seeing that at some point then. Maybe it was the other week that both of our Saturns were in the 7th house. Something like felt familiar and I was like, I need to confirm this. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, I just thought that was an interesting little tidbit. And yeah, that's all the relatable content I have this week.
I'm with it. That was good. I liked it.
All right. Well, I guess we'll take a short break and we'll come back and talk to y'all about Saturn Returns.
Ooh. I'm excited.
And we're back.
Hey.
All right, we're getting into the meats. Christine's got some very good notes for us.
Got some juicy meats today.
So juicy.
Yes. So we're going to talk about Saturn Return. And I got a note. It wasn't a note, but I did get some feedback that maybe some of our beginner astrologers are still a little bit lost.
That's fair.
With some things. So
yeah, I'm still a little bit lost too.
Yes. So maybe we've mentioned things that are like, wait, you just breezed by that. What was that? What did that mean?
What's that mean?
So I'm going to try to remember to get a little more background about things and not assume that everyone knows those things. So,
including me.
Right. I mean, including me. So we're going to talk about Saturn Return, but we want to start with a little background about Saturn itself.
Tell us about Saturn.
Saturn is the planet that symbolizes ethics and hard work.
Okay.
So under its influence, a person's character is strengthened through trial and difficulty. Saturn disciplines us until we learn to discipline ourselves.
Ooh.
So
sexy.
The thing about Saturn, so, we're talking about Saturn Return, and it's a period of time, we'll talk about a little further into the show, but it's a period of time that some people tend to be nervous about.
Yeah.
And if you understand maybe the energy of Saturn, which we will talk more about as we go along. Maybe that's understandable. Like, oh, okay, so trial and difficulty.
I will also say, just in looking at our data on the people who've listened to our podcast so far, most of them are either just past or just getting into their Saturn return period. Also, which I know you'll mention when that is. But,
yes, but also I will say I've looked also at our demographics, at least our Spotify listeners. And I'm like, my age group needs to come on and step it up. I just want to say that. What was it? Is it 30? What is? Oh, now I can't remember. It's something to 44.
Oh, I think it's 34 to 44. Is that right? No, maybe that's not right.
It might be even a little more close. It might be like 36 to 44. Something like that. But anyways, y'all. Tell your friends.
Tell your friends. It's not just
Shelby's
for the
people are showing out, you know.
Not just for the kids. Astrology is for everyone. Okay, wait, I pulled it up.
Okay.
Sorry, I said that. Okay, we've got 0 to 17. There's no children listening to the podcast.
Right. Good.
Great.
Good.
Thank you.
We're very happy about this.
2% of listeners 18 to 22. 7% 23 to 27. 74% of listeners.
74%, y'all.
Most of our listeners 28 to 34. And then 35 to 44.
That's 35 to 44. That's my group.
So that's 16%.
Like, and it dropped.
Well,
something else shifted, and our group got smaller. I'm like, come on now.
Well, shout out to my friends, because I feel like most of the people in this age group are just my friends that are listening. Love you. Thank you for listening. I'm happy you're here.
I think we've gotten some new. I've been watching. I'm like, okay, the numbers. They're looking good. We're growing.
We have some Instagram followers that are just people.
Right.
People I don't know.
Just people we don't know. I'm like, wow. Hey, y'all.
I can't believe you want to listen to us talk. I'm so happy.
Yes.
Anyway, Saturn Returns. I'm sorry.
Saturn. Okay, so we're going to get back into Saturn. So anyway, so Saturn is a planet that, sometimes people are a little nervous about. As I was reading this, I remembered, Saturn is the planet that governs Capricorn. And so when we think about our Capricorn friends, like, this makes sense. Like, as you hear this information, like, very on the ball.
Yeah.
Like, it says, called the Celestial Taskmaster because it teaches us the lessons we must learn in life.
Okay.
Saturn doesn't give us more than we can handle, but under its influence, we achieve through overcoming obstacles and hardship. Character building.
This is a time... I say this because I'm in the middle of a Saturn return, which we will talk about. But this is a time for, like, overcoming obstacles and building character. You're, like, really becoming who you are.
Yes. I was thinking about, like, the age group, and I guess I'll go ahead and mention it now since we're talking about it. So typically your Saturn return starts around 28, 29, so it's technically 29 and a half. But so, we have those shadows and all of that. So, like, that period of time lasts about 2 to 3 years. So, thinking like 28 to 32, basically. Right in those years.
All those listeners that we have
right now. Everybody in those Saturn
returns. You're in it.
So, if you're facing challenges and obstacles and, things are kind of tough, like, This is that time.
Yeah.
So keep pushing, y'all.
Keep pushing. We'll tell
You're gonna
more.
make it to the other side. So we'll come back. I feel like I dropped something, but that's okay. We'll come back to it. So Saturn's position in your chart indicates how well you accept responsibility, and whether you're self-disciplined, and what delays and opposition you can expect to encounter.
Okay.
So again, you're getting a little discipline. There's some oppositions. But nothing that you can't overcome. So nothing too hard. So Saturn's effect is to delay rewards until they're earned. It's one of those characteristics. Also, people tend to be afraid of accepting the burdens that come from Saturn. But when you look back at your life stories of overcoming, those are the things you remember the most, right? Like, when you look back at those things, you're like, oh, I had to go through this, but this is what got me here. Like, these are the things. And so in the moment, it's those things. It's like, in the moment, it sucks.
Mm-hmm. Once you're past
but
it.
But once you're past it, you're like, oh, okay, I see what that did.
Yeah.
I see why I had to go through that.
I see. Okay.
So, this is the energy of Saturn. So it's not to be feared, but, I mean, just know that there's, going to be some obstacles that you have to overcome.
Yeah.
So Saturn's negative influences are inflexibility, cruelty, humorlessness, pessimism, selfishness, inhibition, unhappiness, being calculating, and being overly ambitious.
That's all bad things.
All just real heavy, bad, So people, I mean, Saturn is to be respected, right? Like, definitely some tough energy, but like the negative side is kind of real tough. Real negative. Like cruelty, just straight up unhappiness.
Yeah.
Like, it's tough. So, some interesting astronomy facts about Saturn. I liked these.
Yeah. These were fun for me.
Yeah. A day on Saturn is only 10 hours and 14 minutes.
Oh my God, I already have a hard time with 24 hours.
Right? You got 10 hours and 14 minutes.
So you sleep for 5 of them. And then
right. Like Pisces, you sleep for at least 5, right? Like 10 hours? 6? 6?
What do you do?
Work for 1, maybe 45 minutes of work.
What if on Saturn there's like a weird thing where you just like sleep an entire day and then you're up an entire day and you sleep an entire day? That would actually be lovely.
Yeah, I could do that. I could do that.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
Okay. I'm with that. So because of its the way it spins on its axis, that
okay, I'm sorry.
accounts for the time.
I was reading this, and Christine wrote, "It's got some spins for such a large planet," and it was just the cutest thing I've ever read in my life.
So y'all know that when
Saturn just spinning.
Start writing these notes, sometimes I have some influences, some herbal influences, and so they're
so cute.
The notes got increasingly animated during the astronomy facts.
We're into it. We are into it.
So, Shelby's catching me trying not to read my notes.
I'm sorry. I just read that and I was like, I'm just picturing Saturn like spinning around and a little like getting dizzy from spinning so hard. Like, ooh, so cute. I don't know. It was funny to me.
So we're going to get into, in just a moment, how not cute people thought Saturn was.
Tell us more.
So, our next fact. Until the end of the 18th century, Saturn was the furthest planet in our solar system. And it's only the 6th planet from the sun.
We had so much to learn.
So much. Like, I think I wrote somewhere, like, we need, until we got some better technology. Like, we got some better tech. We could see there's more out there. Okay. Yeah, Saturn
really changed the course of the astrology, I imagine.
Hello.
I don't know enough. I know you gave us a brief history lesson in episode 1, but
yes.
That's...
I mean, what's further? I mean, I feel like Neptune...
What comes after Saturn?
I don't know the order now, listen.
I'm
gonna be honest, I do not know at all.
All that middle school science.
I feel like Venus and Mars, what did I write? Venus and Mars...
Mercury, Venus, Mars.
Mercury, Venus, and Mars. Those are the close ones. And then I think Saturn. So Saturn sticks out.
Is it Jupiter and then Saturn, or Saturn and then Jupiter? Because they're next to each other.
Yeah. See, that's what I don't know.
Then there's Neptune, Uranus.
And so those are like the outer planets. Right. And then, of course, we have Pluto that, I don't know, we're saying these days. It's fine.
I still think it's a planet.
Right. I'm just like, I mean, it's just, that's, okay. We're in the weeds.
We're in the weeds. Yeah, sorry. It doesn't really matter.
No.
But still.
Well, no, not we're in the weeds, but like it being a planet. I'm like, okay, it's been a planet all this time. Like,
right. Just say it's a planet. It's fine.
Like, why are we denouncing it? Like,
Come on.
So anyways, okay. In ancient days, Saturn was considered to be the least interesting planet.
Oh, poor Saturn.
Right.
He's got those cool rings. Why did they say that?
Well, listen, they couldn't see him.
Oh, right.
So it said because it didn't have a cool color like Mars or Jupiter's radiance or Venus's brilliant luminosity.
These old ass astrologers were so mean.
Okay.
It's still a giant planet, okay? It's sick.
They said it was sad and drab, boring and basic,
Oh.
dull and dim. And later on, when we got some better tech invented, we found out Saturn is multi-hued.
Yes.
With bands of yellow and golden brown and reddish brown on the surface.
She's gorgeous.
So also we discovered they have these rings.
Right.
So like,
they're so cool.
Now it's considered the most interesting planet.
Wow.
What a comeback story.
A real comeback story. Saturn's the real comeback kid. But hey, you know what you just said about delayed gratification?
Hello? They counted Saturn out, okay? Sounds like I could preach. They counted Saturn out, all right? But look what happened. So, yeah.
Thank you for those facts. That was really, I loved that.
Yes, so that's our background on good old Saturn. So we're going to look at our Saturn placements.
Yeah. Where are our Saturn placements?
So, do we want to go with yours first or mine?
We can go with yours first. Do you want me to read out of the big book?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I didn't take any of these
Shelby's going to read out of the big book for us.
I'm going to read.
So my Saturn is in Scorpio. So we're going to just hear about what that placement is like.
Means. Okay, so Saturn in Scorpio. Sorry, I'm trying to monologue
reading
like
voice.
No, I'm just kidding. Saturn is powerful in the secretive and passionate sign, lending subtlety and force to the personality. I don't see force, but like subtlety,
force.
passion, I see it.
Yes.
As a native of this position, you understand human motivation, which enables you to control others. I was just talking about that girl.
I got the mind control skills.
Your dominating strength is often hidden under a pleasant and genial exterior. Saturn, however, places obstacles in your path in the form of emotional difficulties and sometimes scandal.
Listen.
You tend to be drawn to secret love affairs. How many times are we going to talk about Christine and her secret love affairs?
Oh, it's in the thing. I can't make this up, y'all.
Secret love affairs that bring sorrow or trouble into your life. See?
Sorrow and trouble. Look, Shelby's like, see? I told you.
When you achieve power, you sometimes undergo a downfall because of rumor and gossip. No secrets. What did we say? No secrets today.
Like when I achieve power, well, has that happened yet?
Yeah. I mean,
when does, something to look out for, I guess.
When young, you often have health problems, but you get through this and tend to live and tend to live to a ripe old age. So get ready for that.
All right. Be ripe. That's right.
They didn't have to say you were ripe. This is an excellent planetary position for executive ability and an unswerving commitment to a goal. Your strong will can become inflexible. Once you set on a course, you see it through until the end.
Okay. You're
prone to secret brooding, but there is usually a touch of dry Saturnian humor to relieve it. Saturn Scorpios are liable to suffer the loss of loved ones early in life.
That was so interesting to me because, obviously that did happen.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, that's very interesting that that's literally part of like an astrological makeup. It's like, oh yeah.
It's crazy.
You're probably going to lose someone. Probably lost someone early in life.
To go back and look at your actual life history and be like, yeah, this is probably going to happen to you, and something you can not look forward to, but look back on and be like, oh wow, that's insane.
Yeah, how is that? Okay.
Yeah.
how does that work? Interesting. So yeah.
That's fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. How do you feel about Saturn and Scorpio after reading?
There's, ups and downs, right?
Ups and downs. Ups and downs, for sure.
Definitely feels very on point.
Mm-hmm.
So let's hear about Shelby's Saturn placement.
Yes, so my Saturn is in Aquarius.
Yes.
So let's see. Saturn in Aquarius, in the humanitarian sign of Aquarius, Saturn's qualities of trustworthiness and self-discipline are well placed. As a Saturn Aquarian, you have a talent for dealing with people and appealing to the masses. Many of you achieve fame, both in the entertainment world and politics because of this ability.
Famous.
Maybe I should run for office.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a good idea. I've
famous some other way.
For that, okay?
Well, we just need, that we've already talked about how that needs to be normalized and legalized.
I didn't
legalize first.
Just
right?
kidding, I did.
I definitely did.
Let's see. Saturn in Aquarius enhances a rational and original mind capable of learning and study. Like those with Saturn in the other fixed signs of Taurus, Leo, and Scorpio, you are likely to encounter obstacles and difficulties early in life, but you tend to gain the wisdom and maturity that serve you well as you get older. You like to run the show and get your own way. Mm-hmm. And you are clever about manipulating people so you can. I mean, okay.
A little manipulation.
Right. Acknowledge where I've done some wrong.
Mind control, manipulation, hey.
Ooh, you can be obstinate and cunning at the same time.
Ooh.
Saturn gives you the aggressiveness to take leadership, but you know how to avoid rubbing others the wrong way. You have humor and wit, though your need for independence sometimes leads to a lonely life. Wow. Natives of the Saturn position are prone to injuries to the lower legs and ankles.
Watch your legs.
I did break my leg once.
See? Wow.
I also was a really clumsy kid. I broke like a bone every summer for like 4 summers in a row.
Okay, that's... So listen, I've never broken anything, and it just gives me so much anxiety to think about people like breaking. Like I used to know people in school that just were always breaking bones, and I'm like, oh my God, how did you survive?
I guess I just didn't have enough calcium. I don't know what my problem was, but yeah, I was always breaking bones, and it was not fun, especially breaking a leg in the summertime as a kid because I'm a Pisces. All I wanted to do was be in the water.
Yeah.
And so you can't get in the water with a cast.
Right.
But I had this thing, so I had a full leg cast because it broke at the knee, but basically I had to have the cast from here to here.
Oh my God.
And there's this like horrible rubber thing that you can like put over it, and you can like kind of get in the water. Like you can't fully submerge it. When I tell you that thing smells so
I'm
bad.
sure. Oh.
Horrible.
A rubber thing over your skin.
Yeah.
While you get in the water.
God forbid you get any moisture in the cast. When you take it off, I hope I never do it again. It was a terrible experience.
That sounds awful.
Anyway, that's not related to this, but...
Well, it is, because broken bones.
I guess it is.
It's absolutely related. We're still on topic.
Still on topic. Yes. But there was a lot of things in here that did seem to make sense to me.
Yeah.
So I am a Pisces, also Cancer rising, so I feel like I have a lot of like wateriness.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes I do get like a real like get shit done kind of attitude, and I didn't know where in my chart that really came from, because I don't really have a lot of like fire or that kind of energy in the chart, but yeah, this Aquarius placement makes a lot of sense to me. Mm-hmm. What did it say? Capable of trustworthiness and self-discipline. I feel like I'm a pretty self-disciplined person for the most part, which is kind of in conflict with being
with
a Pisces.
The Pisces. Yeah, I mean, you definitely have the placements because you're so much more self-disciplined than I am.
Well, I don't know about that.
Well, it's okay. I recognize this. The Pisces is strong in that way.
Well, you also, again, we we've talked about this before.
Awareness.
You're true Pisces.
Yep.
True Pisces.
Just gotta work on it.
Yeah. There was something else in here. Obstacles early in life that you kind of like encounter and then gain wisdom from them, and then, you know, so that maturity serves you as you get older. I'm not going to dive into all my childhood trauma on the podcast,
sure.
But like,
yes.
I do feel like that made sense to me.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
So
far, the astrology is astrology.
Not astrology.
Astrology?
It's astrology. It's astrology. It's a good tool. I'm here with it.
Okay.
What do we got next when we talk about our Saturn returns?
So we're going to get into what is the Saturn return. So now that we've talked about the energy of Saturn, the lessons and the obstacles that it can bring, the Saturn return is when Saturn returns to the place it was when you were born. And so, because Saturn's orbit is so big, it takes about 29 and a half years to orbit the sun.
Oh, okay.
So this is why your Saturn return appears
around
this time in your life. So it's probably the most commonly recognized astrological term after the sun signs and after Mercury retrograde. It takes place approximately every 29 and a half years. And that's the time it takes to orbit the sun. And it lasts about 2 to 3 years.
See, this is so funny because the term Saturn return, like Mercury retrograde, is one of those things that people say. And I would hear people say, and I actually had no fucking clue what it meant.
Right.
But like, duh, it's just returning to the place it was.
Returning to, right.
when you were born.
These things actually, they make sense. Like, okay. Now, I was unfamiliar with the Saturn return, like, altogether until maybe a year or two ago. I was listening to someone's live, like, one of my spiritual people, and they were talking about their Saturn return and how they like went through that same time with their husband. And so one of the things, this is a tangent from this, hopefully I can get back to, one of the things that makes people nervous about the Saturn return is that when you're married, and if you get married before your Saturn return, sometimes people break up, or not just marriages, but like relationships. Because you're going through these changes, and sometimes, you know, those obstacles can be within the relationship, depending on maybe where Saturn is in your chart, in your house placement. So people get kind of antsy about that as well. So she was talking about this in the live. And so that was the first time I had really heard about a Saturn return. I'm like, so, wait, no, what is a Saturn return?
Yeah.
So then that's when I, went and looked it up to see like, oh, okay. And I still didn't do any reflection on mine at that point, but now I knew what she was talking about.
Yeah. I literally tell this story every time I feel like I've told it 4 times on the podcast already, and we're only on episode 6. But I saw a therapist for a while, a couple years ago, who I was about to turn 28, or I think I had just turned 28. And she was like, oh, you are getting ready to enter into your Saturn return period. And I was like, huh?
I'm sorry?
This is the same lady that told me that weed was plant medicine. And I was like, thank you, ma'am. She was very cool. But yeah, that's how and she didn't tell me, literally what happens, like that's Saturn returning, but just saying like, it's a period of time in astrology where like a lot, and I think she mentioned that like a lot of people in long-term relationships break up or, just operate a little differently in this time period.
Yeah.
It's like time of big changes or, overcoming an obstacle, whatever.
Yeah.
And I kind of said, okay. And now I just turned 30.
Right.
And now I can go, oh, I think this makes sense to me.
You're seeing some things,
I'm seeing some things.
I gotcha.
And I think in 5 years, I will see even more things that I can't see right now because I'm still in the middle of it.
Yes. We talked about when we got together today, I was like, wait, when we talked about this episode, I'm like, oh yeah, Shelby's in this and like she can talk about it. And later I'm like, no, she's in this. She can talk about it, but like not in the same way as someone who's been through it and has some years, I'm like, oh, me. Okay, duh.
I mean, again, we talked about it last episode. Like, I don't know how old anybody is. Christine and I are the same age as far as I'm concerned.
Shelby's like, yeah, you're just a couple years older than me. Like, oh, girl.
It all feels the same. It's all how old you feel.
Right. Oh, yes. I mean, and we feel very young-ish. We feel young at times.
Yes. I had 2 people. I can't remember if I told you this or not. I had 2 people the week before my birthday because I was like, I'm turning 30. Like, it felt like a big deal. Yeah. And 2 people tell me, like, oh my God, I had no idea. I thought you were like 26 or whatever. And I was like, it made it, like, I appreciated it, but I was also like, 30's not very old though. So, like, why are you making it like, oh girl, you look great for 30? I'm like, yeah. Because 30 is not old.
See, and this is the place that everyone... So, like, when I was turning 30... Like, I feel like everyone gets to this space. Like, when you're getting towards 30, you're like, oh, this really isn't old. But, like, when you're younger than that, you really do feel like 30 is, like, old. Like, oh, God, I'm going 20, to be old.
Yeah, it felt like, ooh, that's closer to my mom's age.
Right.
It's
and you think about your parents, and so then you get there and you're like, oh, this is really not, like, I just, like, started getting some stuff together.
Right. Hopefully we're not even halfway through.
Right. Like, there's a lot more life on the other side of this. Okay, this really isn't, but you can't tell anyone that, like, you just have to get there, and then you're like, oh, okay, yep,
exactly.
This is still very young.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you get, like, older people are like, you're a baby. Like, you're 30. Yep. Oh, girl. There's lots.
Yeah. I still feel like a lot of people I interact with, like, at work and stuff like that, they're like, you're a child.
Right.
Okay.
It's like,
cool.
Oh, okay.
Cool.
And just, and we're not going to be offended by that. Like, okay, I get it. Like, probably when I get there, I'll think that is a child.
Yes. It always makes me laugh. Both of my parents, who... I don't think of as being, like, old by any stretch of the imagination, but I know are getting older.
Right.
Always refer to people my age as kids. Oh, this kid.
Yeah.
That's a 30-year-old man.
Right. Like, my parents always.
Anyone under 40 is a kid. I'm like,
oh, son. I'm like, son, that man's like 50. Like,
just because they're younger than you doesn't mean...
Yeah.
Anyway.
It's so interesting. So we were just mentioned your parents. And so when I'm looking at this Saturn return information, I realized my stepmom is in her second Saturn return. Oh. Because we often talk about the first Saturn return, right? Like that first pivotal point in your life.
But you have more than one.
But you may have up to 3.
Hopefully,
maybe, so, about every 30 years, so.
We read that you're going to have a long and you're going to live to a
ripe old age. So, maybe seeing, 3 Saturn returns.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah.
My grandfather, I'm thinking, I think he might be right up in his third, he's, is he 92 now? So, he might be in his third Saturn return.
Let me do some quick math.
Right. So I'm like, if we're going roughly 30 years, I'm like 92, like coming out of it, or yeah.
That's interesting. I guess my grandma is 88, and she is. It's funny. I saw her this week, and she's entering into her third Saturn return. Which I hope she's around to get through it. Yeah.
And so I will say, I didn't do my full due diligence to report what the next 2 phases would be like, and so we will follow up at another time. Because I feel like that's a little unfair to only talk about the first, but also our listeners.
We're looking at our listenership right now.
Tend to be, in the first one, and we don't have any in the second.
But I would guess that a lot of people that are listening, like, their parents are probably going through their second Saturn return, or older caregiver people in your life, or like, you know, even if it's not a parent per se, but like, yeah, they're probably getting ready to go through theirs. I guess my mom is going to turn 60 this year.
Yep, she's in it.
So she's in it. Mm-hmm. Wow, that's interesting, because she's like, we just had this whole conversation with her talking about like maybe considering retirement, but then being like, what would I do? And I feel like
and that's a lot of the that second, from what I've read, which has still been limited, of the second return, that's a lot of it, like, because you're moving into this, are we retiring? Like, what's that going to look like? What am I going to do?
Right.
Are you going to work, or are you going to do like some passion project or whatever? You know, I've been talking to my dad about this now. He's beyond his second Saturn return. He's 65. And, you know, I'm like, so what do you want to do? Like, what do you want to do with this time? I'm like, this is great. You have time, right? What are you doing with it? And then, of course, like, we're in a pandemic, and so like now you're not doing anything. So we're back to it again. Like, so like maybe you should go like hang out at like some community centers, or like go play ping pong, or I don't know. What do you want to do?
Pick
like
up a hobby.
Go like to museums, or what are you into?
Yeah.
You know, like, what are you interested in?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to like pull this out of him, and he's just like, okay. Like, I'm sitting at home, like I don't know what he's doing.
That's funny that you say that, because my dad is 60. I think he's turning 69 this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right, because my mom's turning 60. He's turning 69. That's okay. Sorry,
still blows my mind. I'm like, Papa Nace.
He looks great. He looks great. But he's out of his second one, but he kind of like, so he was a working musician, like, for my entire childhood. Yeah. And long before I was born, and is still doing that to a degree, but like much less than he was before. And so like, because we were staying with them while we were in town, I just got to kind of see him. Like, my mom would get up and go to work or whatever, because she's not retired yet. She's still working. And he just has such like a lovely little leisurely life. Like, he just gets up, he, you know, makes coffee, you know, reads the news, watches some TV, goes out for a nice walk, run situation, might, you know, make a couple phone calls, do a little bit of work, and then he's like, all right, well, I'm gonna go to the grocery store. Do you want me to get you anything for dinner? Like, it just, I was like, this is what I want my life to be. Yes.
Whenever, I mean, even though I feel like my dad doesn't do a lot, I mean, also, that's nice too. Yeah. Like, oh, yeah. That's cool. Like, I would like to be able to do those things, like have my little routine and, you know, have slow mornings. Yeah, like go for a nice walk or run. Just, you know, go walk my dog.
And he does still do like plenty of work when he is working. Yeah. But to have the spaciousness in a day to just do it at your own pace. Right. To, you know, play a little he plays the guitar. That's his hobby.
Oh, create.
You know, it just has so much time for shit like that. And I'm like, God, when can I retire? Right.
Like, can I do that now? Is it safe to retire? Right. You know? It's like, well, yeah. I mean, if you have the money, I guess it is.
I guess, but I don't. So,
right. You know. Neither do I. So we're working.
If we could just make this podcast for a living, when we make this podcast
for a living,
you know.
Manifest it.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
so okay. Oh, my last note here, and this is again more talking about the first Saturn return, is that this time period is often described as a time of great achievements and pinnacles, or great obstacles and difficulties. So don't feel like it's all bad. You know, there are also some high points that you're going to have in those times. It doesn't mean like that whole period of your life is going to be like terrible and sad. Just means like there are going to be things during that time to have to face. But you will get through it.
Yeah, you will. You will. We will.
It's an inspirational story. It's building your inspirational stories.
Tell me again so I can just have that.
You're gonna get through it. I promise.
Thanks.
I did.
Yeah. All
still here.
Be Christine when I grow up. So.
I don't know about that. I don't know about that. You've heard. You continue to learn more about Christine. I don't know if you want that.
Well, do you want to take a quick break?
Yeah, let's take a quick break before we get into the next part.
Yes. All right.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
So we're going to get into talking a little bit about our own experiences here. So we're going to start with Shelby. And so, like we said, Shelby, also happy birthday again.
Thank you. Happy birthday to you, because yours is in like 2 days.
Yeah. It's like it's birthday season. Yay. But Shelby is in the midst of her Saturn return.
In the midst.
And so I'm kind of just talk about some things that you're experiencing now, especially like learning more about Saturn returns. Like, what are you thinking? And Keith is, also wants to share about his, Saturn return, I guess.
He has opinions about
very
it.
Very vocal.
I will just say, well, okay, so 29.5 is like really when it happens, but again, being in that shadow period, the day that my 28th birthday, my parents had come to Nashville to visit. Oh yeah, I guess that's where we live now. Sorry, I guess not like I haven't said that on the podcast before.
Yes.
My parents had come to visit, and the 11th was the day that the NBA canceled their season when I turned 28 for the pandemic. Wow. And for whatever reason, that was the thing that made me go, oh, this is serious.
Yeah, this is a thing. It's happening. Yeah.
So
what a start.
I had all these plans. I was going to like have a little party, like not a big thing, but just get some people together for my birthday. And then I was like, oh, I guess I'll postpone it.
Right.
It never
happened. Yeah.
It never happened. Yeah. So
poor Pisces.
I feel like I immediately talk about a fucking obstacle. But I will say I was super privileged to be able to my job went to working from home for a period of time, so I had a lot of time for reflection. Okay, yes. And because, I didn't know a ton about Saturn returns, but I knew where I was headed, this is the end of my 20s. Yeah. Even if you don't believe in astrology, regardless. Yeah, I mean, it's developmentally, it's a different point in your life, that switch over, and it's not, it's not as drastic as we think, again, when we're earlier in our 20s, but there is kind of, there are things that you start thinking about that maybe you weren't thinking about when you were 22. Exactly. Absolutely. 100%. So that's how I started off my 28th birthday. Wow. And then right before that, obviously I keep talking about this therapist that I had. Yes. Right before that is when I oh yeah, that's right. So I guess I was 27, turning 28, whatever. That was one of my first real deep dives into really doing therapy. Yeah. And getting into the shit. I did some EMDR and I felt coming into my Saturn return, or coming into that shadow period of my Saturn return, I was in a good space because I had done some of that work ahead of time. So if anyone is going into their Saturn return, that's what I would recommend. Therapy. I'm not through it yet. Obviously, I'm gonna recommend therapy to everybody, but absolutely at any point. That was something that I had known that I needed to do for a long time. Yeah. And because of where I was working and what I was doing, I was in school, I was working full time, I was doing. You were there. Yeah, I was there actually. I was yeah. You were there. I was there. You were there for a lot of it. I just felt I just couldn't find the spaciousness for it, and I remember oh man, me and you and Melissa went to get our aura photos taken. Yes. That was around Christmas maybe. Right before that. And then we bought those candle magic kits or whatever for intention setting. New Year's Day of 2020. Yeah. I was setting intentions. I was doing all the things. My intention was to create more spaciousness in my life and more time for rest because I felt like I hadn't done that.
Mm-hmm.
And then the pandemic happened.
Wow.
And I was just like, what did I do?
Right. Like,
I know it wasn't just me, but like,
did I create this?
It was,
You're like, I am magical.
It was something. Anyway, so I'm kind of tangenting, but I just felt like I really had time for hobbies and self-reflection. And, you know, that was also a time where I know you had talked about, like, relationships and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I think now that we have lived through 2 years of, like, barely leaving the house and we still like each other, like, I'm like,
yeah.
If I didn't know before, I know now, like, I feel pretty confident that Jack is my person.
Yeah.
And, like, the way our relationship looks might change throughout the course of our life.
Mm-hmm.
But he is my, like, life partner.
Yes.
He is my person, like, without a doubt.
Yeah.
Because I literally don't think I could have done that with anybody else.
Absolutely. And I mean, that makes sense even with, because are y'all the same age or?
He turns 30 next month. Yeah.
Okay.
So
okay.
close.
So you're in this same period of time, this like phase of life. So the pandemic coming in would be an obstacle that would have, you know, a lot of relationships ended during the pandemic. Yes. And so, you know, if you're able to like, one, stick through that and become stronger, that's a very like good sign, right? Like, we're good. Yeah. We made it through this.
Absolutely.
We're in a good place.
Yeah. So I feel like if you make it through a Saturn return with a person, and you come out on the other end of it, which obviously I'm still in the middle of it, so we've got time, but like coming out on the other end of that and being like, no, we're good, we're still good. I feel like that is meaningful to me.
Absolutely.
So that's something I also I can feel myself understanding who I am better than I have in years past. Like I don't feel the need to change myself as much as I used to within different groups of people.
Yes.
And I think I'm still, there's a lot of changes in my life coming up, but that's where I'm at right now.
That's beautiful. I love it. Yeah.
Now, I want to know about you and your Saturn return because I need some inspiration. So tell me.
So there may be some inspiration in here. So my Saturn return. So one of the things I did in reflecting about this is I am like a visual historian, if you will. I take lots of pictures.
Yes.
And so my good old Google Cloud has kept up with most of them until now. And now it's like, hey, we need some money for this space that you're taking up. You got a lot of stuff. Too many pictures, girl. Give us money. So, you know, I'm in the, do I want to go ahead and do it? I'm going to have to, because I need all of my pictures.
I have to keep it. I have to keep all of them.
Yeah, so I mean, I have like images back to like 2011 right now, from like all of these different phones or whatever. So I like to go and scroll into the years and look, and so I scrolled back to around like 29, 20. I think, did I look at 28? I think I did. 28, 29, 30, 31. You know, just seeing kind of what I was doing during those times.
Yes.
Because at first when I was thinking about this, I'm like, oh. Yeah, I don't feel like there was a lot going on during my Saturn return. And then I started actually looking at these pictures and like thinking about where I was. I'm like, oh, no. Things definitely happened during your Saturn return.
Yeah.
So one of the first things that I remembered is that I got fired from a job.
That's a big deal.
It's a big deal.
It can be. It doesn't
big
have
obstacles,
to be.
right?
It can be. And in the grand scheme of things, it seems like it was not big of a deal. But
right now, yes. I think at the time I was like, I mean, it was one because it was like in my field,
right?
And it was like something I felt like really ashamed about, like I did a bad job or something. When in the end, like kind of when I came out of that a little further, there were some things happening in that whole organization. And a lot of people were getting fired. And, like, people, you know, they're like, what? This person? Like, so I don't know. I don't really know all of the details.
I don't know if you ever told me that.
Yeah, no, like literally stuff I don't talk about. I was like, oh, I got fired from a job because I would be so ashamed. Like, you're a bad person.
No.
I'm like, no, people get fired all the time.
Yeah. For stupid reasons.
For stupid shit.
For stupid reasons.
Like, it was literally something that like fully caught me off guard. And I was like, wait, what? Totally just didn't know it was coming. So I was pretty like distraught about it. Yeah. But during that time, I made a decision to take a break from the therapy field. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I'm just gonna like go work somewhere, like not have to like take work home, and that way that we know that it happens as much as we self-care as practitioners. Sometimes those things come with, you know, you're intaking people's traumas and all of that stuff. Like, yeah, sometimes it comes with you.
Have the world's best boundaries, and it's still going to affect you in some way.
You think about, So, was like, yeah, I'm going to take a break. So I started working at Amazon.
I did know that you worked at Amazon for a little bit. Yeah,
I've regaled you on my Amazon story. Yes. So I worked for Amazon for less than 2 months. Okay.
A job is a job. Okay. A job is a job.
This job was wild. Like, so this is the first time I really did like a lot of manual labor. Mm-hmm. Like I worked, you know, I had part-time jobs growing up, like, restaurants, kind of food industry, retail, kind of more in that landscape. I worked at like a day spa, things like that. Like, you know, so, you know, I'm working in the warehouse, out in Murfreesboro, and this is like a really large facility. I think it's the largest one in this like area, at least in Tennessee. Mm-hmm. It's 1 million square feet.
Wow.
It's huge.
It's huge. That's massive. I knew it was big, but like I've literally never heard anyone say 1 million square feet about anything.
Listen. What? I mean, like, in the way I could get into the weeds, and I'll try not to get too deep in the Amazon weeds, but I'm like, I want to share the Amazon things, because I'm like, do people know what it's like to work, you know? And I'm like, yeah, there are people that work in warehouses all the time.
Yeah, totally.
They know about this life, but like, I'm like, this is so new to me. But this huge facility, and then like, you come in, I mean, it takes a certain amount of time to like get from your car to the door, because the massive parking lot and all the people, and like trying to like play this game of what time you're going to show up to work so that you can get in at a certain time. You do stretches before work.
Oh, well,
that was interesting and new.
Not a bad
thing, because it was heavily physical. And like, it just was kind of one of those things. It's like, oh, okay.
I've never been to a job that mandated stretching, except for when I was a yoga teacher.
Right,
but that's different.
Like, you get into your like morning circle or afternoon whenever your shift starts, and like, you know, you do these like hand stretches and stuff, and, you know, stretch your body. And then, you know, you race off, like once the time sets, like you race off and you're grabbing stuff. So I was a picker. Okay. And there's different roles, like packers, and then there are like people who stock the bins. Mm-hmm. So here's the thing. When you think about Amazon, you would probably think like, oh, these warehouses, like things are very organized.
Right.
And like, you know, like all of the mugs, like the one kind of mug are in one bin. Uh-huh. And all of these trays are in another bin. And these, you know, bottled waters are in another bin.
It's not like that,
It's not like that. It's not like that. Oh. It's like so traumatizing. Think about this. Like, things are everywhere. And like, they're accounted for. Like, there's, you know, the system knows where all these things are. But like, you have this little gun, and it tells you the item you're picking up. Mm-hmm. And you have like your little cart. Because, I mean, it feels like a rat race in there. And it's like 10 hours straight of like this rat race running. And it's like 3 levels of rows and rows and rows of bins, and this gun that's like, go to this place and you grab this out of this bin, and then it tells you the next item, and that item could be like 75 rows down. Ooh. And it gives you a time to get there and get the item. was like, this is like a crazy ass game.
This is a little, I mean, you said rat race, and I was like, yeah, I can see it. But, like, I'm thinking about looking down on this from above, and it's just, like, all these people.
Yes.
Like, it's like a little maze. Like,
And it's a bunch of people in there, and then you have the people that are also in there packing the bins while you're trying to get things. Sometimes things are, like, on high shelves, and you have to get on, like, a ladder to get them, which is how I got injured and how I stopped working at Amazon. But, like, I think anytime you start a job and, like, in the orientation, people talk about how much weight they've lost.
Yeah, maybe that's something you should.
Maybe you're like, but why am I losing weight at this rapid rate?
Yeah, maybe that's not, I mean, that's not really a weight loss program that sounds healthy.
Right.
Or good.
They will run you to death.
Or, I mean, yeah. I don't want to get sued by Jeff Bezos, but, like.
Right, not to death.
Yeah.
But,
allegedly.
Run you ragged. We'll say that. Allegedly.
Everyone just, who doesn't want to get sued when they have a podcast, they just say allegedly.
Right, allegedly.
Jeff Bezos is going to try and murder us all.
Yes. Now, I mean, you know, I think a lot of this is like, you know, again, like someone who's probably worked in a warehouse, like, yeah, that's
like,
what,
yeah, girl.
especially like picking,
like.
That is the life. And now at that scale, like that size of a warehouse, it's a little interesting. Like, I mean, even when you would have breaks, like you would have a 30-minute lunch. And there's a lunchroom for the pickers, like in our like area, so you don't have to leave that area. You can go in this one lunchroom because the gun is timing you, and then like when your lunch is up, it's telling you where your next item is and how long you have to get there.
Oh my!
It's like very anxiety for these.
Yeah, no, this sounds terrible.
It was awful. And so, like, there was a large lunchroom in the middle of the whole facility, but you realized you don't have enough time to get there and get back. So you start eating in this little smaller lunchroom. It doesn't have, like, all the, like, snack machines and stuff. Right. Like, it has, like, a couple. So, yeah, I mean, it's sorry. This is a very long tangent about Amazon. But it was wild.
I'm imagining going from, you're a person with a master's degree who was doing, which, I don't know, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's just paper, but like,
right, yeah, like just doing certain kind of work.
You were caring for people for a living, and then going from caring for people for a living to the least trauma-informed thing I could possibly think of, and I know that this is me being very privileged and not having had to work in a warehouse, but I mean, it does sound hard. It sounds. Right? I feel for anybody who does that every day and is like, yeah, this is totally normal.
Right. Like, and so, like, you know, like recently I've been seeing a lot of these Amazon commercials, like with people working there, like, oh, and Amazon, you know, and the benefits start from day one. No, they have made improvements. Honestly, from the time I worked there, the pay rate has gone up quite a bit.
I mean, the least they could do, frankly.
And I think the automatic benefits, because I don't think that was a thing when I was working there. Well, it wasn't, because there was... I got injured, and they're like, oh, no. So here's the thing. They also gaslight the fuck out of you because...
Are we surprised?
I was injured, right. And they're like, oh, no, that's just the breaking in period. Like, because they know that, one, I mean, you're on concrete floors. So, again,
right.
Concrete is awful for the body in that way. But the best shoes, because everyone went and got new shoes.
Right, because you have to.
Because you got to get something that could support that. Like, you're gonna get injured. Like, they know that, like, you're going to hurt. Yeah. So they're like, oh, yeah, that's just the breaking in period. I'm like, something's wrong with my ankle.
Like, yeah, no, that's different.
And they're like, oh, just go to go to the infirmary. And so you get to sit in there and rest for a while. I'm like, that's cool. Because, I mean, don't have to be running around.
Right.
But also, like, I can't do this every day.
Yeah.
And so it just started to become a thing. And, like, I took a medical leave. And at that point, I just found another job. Because it's like, they also don't pay you to be on leave. So,
American capitalism is some real bullshit. It really is some real bullshit. bullshit.
So that's my rant on Amazon. But
so that's what you were doing in your Saturn Return?
This is part of my Saturn Return, right? So that was less than 2 months.
Okay, so that was just a small
That
chunk.
was like a small chunk, but it was meaningful. It was like, okay, people are doing this. All right. So gave me an experience, something new to empathize with.
Yeah,
like these people are working hard.
Mm-hmm.
And also, like, some people tell you, like, that work for other facilities, like, oh, well, this facility is a little, like, better, or, like, you don't have to do as much over here, or, like, yeah, but that was my experience.
It's still a hard-ass job, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
People losing weight, come on.
Right.
A weight loss plan of a job?
Yeah,
No.
Yikes.
So, after that, I went and worked at a call center.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That also sounds like another terrible thing that is a product of American capitalism. But
So,
okay.
So the call center was actually, it was fun until it wasn't. Let's say that. It was fun until it wasn't. I met a lot of younger friends. Mm-hmm. Like, to be one of the older people was kind of interesting.
And
like,
this is while you're going through your Saturn Returns.
Right.
So yeah. I'm talking about you now feeling like the same age as me.
Right.
But I'm 30.
Right, at like 30.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay. Now there were people older than me. So we worked at a tax software support. Like, we did the support for this
Mm-hmm.
tax software for professionals.
Okay. Not just for like
Right, like not
people.
your regular like TurboTax or anything like that, like your self-prepared, but like the software for the professionals. So the interesting thing about this job was like you basically had to learn how to prepare taxes. Because providing the support for the software,
you're a CPA, girl.
right now I know how to do, like, look, I can do your 1120s, like,
Wow.
like you want your S corp, like whatever.
I have to.
We can do these things.
I have to use TurboTax, which is, you know
Yes.
what? Let me just say,
Please use TurboTax.
taxes are bullshit. I should not have to pay for something the government is making me do because it's too complicated to figure out on my own. But that's a whole nother story.
Okay, so you do this.
Right.
You figure out the number and
Right.
you show me the work, and then I'll I'll give you your money, whatever. But yeah, so we had to learn how to prepare these taxes, because the funny thing was, a lot of people call in for support for the software, right? Because that's the support is for the software,
Right.
but they were trying to make the numbers work. So these are professionals calling us.
Yikes.
And they're like, well, I'm trying to get to this number. And I'm like,
This
well,
isn't
you got to
really-
figure out how that gets to that number. But I'm telling you, the form as it is
It's doing
doing the right math.
Yeah.
So this was my interesting job. So this is the time I slept with like 3 of my coworkers. This is the fun times about that
Messy.
job.
I love it.
So messy.
I mean,
Like,
it's a call
was
center. Like,
right up in the mess.
there's
Like,
worse places you could sleep with your coworkers. Like,
it was a great time. And I mean, for the most part, that did not actually become a mess. Like, none of them, well, they might have known, but like no one, like, this was all casual.
no one was salty about it.
Right, no one was upset. Like,
That's
we're everyone's having a good time.
Okay.
So that was fun times.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of times when dead season, we would like play like soccer and stuff in our little rolling chairs.
That's fun.
It was just fun. Like, it was
Yeah.
something different from, taking in traumas and
Yeah.
different things like that. Because the jobs, I guess, I had before that, worked with people in addiction, people coming out of jail, people coming out of trafficking. So, like, a lot of like heavy things.
Yeah.
A lot of that, even at the time, was kind of new and like, okay, now what? Like, even like in my like the trafficking job, for what it was, like, even some of that was still new to me. Like, okay, now what's going on? So we were in some precarious situations on a few occasions.
Yeah.
But yeah, just like a lot of heavy stuff. So it was kind of nice to take like a mental break.
So that's been something that I've like considered
Mm-hmm.
the last, because like I too, because we are in the same field, have only had jobs that felt heavy.
Mm-hmm.
And like the one I have now is less heavy than the one I had before.
Yeah.
But like sometimes I think maybe I'll just quit and I'll go be somebody's private chef and I'll go, you know, just take some time off from that. And like I feel like this is a good time to, you know, and I
make that.
I know I'm secure enough in my career that like I could always come back to it.
Absolutely.
If I needed to. But like, it's a good time for experimentation.
See, and you're coming into that in a positive way, right? Versus like me, who was like, oh, like shame, like again, the shame. There's a lot of shame, of like, oh, you're like doing something kind of like beneath, and I don't mean that really intentionally, but like in your mind, you kind of like, oh, this is beneath because I've done this work to do this job,
right?
And now I'm doing something else.
But I'll just say you're a fucking inspiration for stuff like that because, like, where you're at now, and I also think that part of that is just it's in the like cultural zeitgeist of like people are kind of like, I want to work for myself. I want to do like I don't want to conform to like having this job that is like a slog day in and day out.
Right.
Like I think it's very right now thing to work for yourself and to make your life what you want it to be. Yeah. And you know, also I will say along with that, like a job can just be a job. It does not have to be a calling.
And listen, in a lesson that came from my Saturn return was absolutely that. Like, you know, I can just kind of do a job to meet my financial needs, and be able to go and have whatever time. And like, I think that also allowed for what was a very social time in my life. Like, I'm like looking at these pictures. I'm like, we need to get back to that. And I get down on myself. I'm like, no, there was a pandemic.
Right.
There's a reason.
Right. A very good reason. Right.
But, you know, I looked at that, you know, that period. I'm like, yeah, I was having a great time. Like, so part of that was I started dating women during that time. So big changes. Now my coming out technically was still just post Saturn return, but like I was doing my thing. It just wasn't a public thing.
Right. There you go.
And so, you know, that was new and different. That started at the call center.
With one of your coworkers?
Oh, yes. That was one of them. But, you know, the others were men. But, yeah, just mixing it up. Like, hey, what's up?
That's fine.
So, yeah, just kind of allowing that for myself was like a big thing. Because I knew if it went well, that would be something that later there would be, you know, dealing with, okay, so what are we going to do about family? And, you know, there's a whole story of how that came about, how my mom found out, which maybe, you know, I'm not prepared for the podcast at this point in time. Yeah. But yeah, you know, that part's harder. But maybe it was, you know,
a very special episode.
Right. Yes. Yeah. So that was like a big thing for me. So another kind of big transformation during the Saturn return. I'm trying to think what else did I write here. Oh, side note to the call center job. Also had 2 HR claims for harassment there. That was a thing that happened.
From any of your coworkers that you slept with?
Well, so yes. From
Christine.
Okay, so it's a technicality. Technically, it wasn't her, but it was her friend who also worked there, who was the boss's wife. Like literally the supervisor, the lead supervisor's wife was the receptionist. Very messy. She was very messy.
I mean, I've never really, I've worked for a call center, but not that kind of call center.
Yeah.
It's like a nonprofit hotline
type
of call center,
got
which
you.
is a very different
kind of work.
Yeah.
Yes. This was like the very messy, if you've worked in a call center, messy call center, this is that kind of one.
Yeah.
Which was another whole different environment, again, from coming from like nonprofits, Mostly environments with mostly women, if not all women, in those workplaces. And then, you know, kind of mixed company, like, oh, okay, you know, so things were happening. Also, again, very young people, so things were happening. So, yeah, like, that also happened. One was a sexual harassment claim, which was not really a great time. But it wasn't, I mean, it wasn't like I don't want to say it wasn't like a heavy, but like, it was on the lighter side, I would guess, would say. But like, one of my coworkers actually filed it for me, like, in the name of me, I guess. I didn't ask her to. She was like, this is happening.
Like, filed it. Not like someone said you sexually harassed.
No.
Like other way around.
Yes.
Okay.
So,
okay.
Yeah, so in our little cubicle kind of things, she sat on one side and he sat on the other side. And, you know, you can hear what's happening.
Right.
Just across the little wall. And so, you know, it was a thing that had been being talked about because it wasn't necessarily that I was the only person either. But he seemed to kind of it was just like really old school sexual harassment too. Like when someone leans over and like, you know, does like physical stuff, like just real gross. And we already did not like him. So he was just doing a lot. But it created a lot of like turmoil too, because of course in the messy call center, like, even the HR stuff that was going on was not private.
Of course
So
not.
everyone knew what was going on. And then, like, people are taking sides. There were, like, literal, like, male-female divide.
Oh, my God.
It was the whole thing.
I've never worked in a place like this.
Listen, I'm like, these are eye-opening experiences.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it's part of the Saturn return, right?
Listen, a lot of challenges.
Overcoming obstacles, right? All of the above. An
interesting experience all around. A lighter and then some more heavy. I started traveling a lot, like during that period of time in my life, and like a lot of solo travel, and that was new.
Okay, one of the first times that I was like, Christine's so cool, is when we worked together, not at any of the aforementioned jobs.
Yes, right, none of those places.
But you were like, yeah, I'm taking time off. You took yourself on a vacation, and I was like, that was the first time I was like, I could take myself on a vacation.
Yes.
I don't have to travel with anybody. I can just go by myself and have a fucking good time. Like, that was such a cool moment. I don't know why. I just thought that was the coolest thing.
Thanks. This reminds me, there was a time when we worked together, and it wasn't, I don't think it was you, but it was someone else. Taylor had an extra ticket to like Way Late Playdate, and she couldn't go, or for whatever reason, and so she was asking if anybody wanted it. I was like, I'll take it. And so someone said, that's so brave. There's something.
What?
They're like, that's so brave. And I'm like, oh, well, I mean,
brave?
I'm not just going to stay in the house just because I don't, I'm not with someone.
Yeah.
But also, like, I think sometimes, like, especially like when you're with someone really young and you don't have that same period of like singleness, like some of the stuff that like you kind of develop and like, oh, I can hang out by myself.
Right.
Like it comes, but like it comes in a different way. And so like when you have a period of time when you're like, I've been single for a long time.
Right.
I'm going to keep living, you know.
Yeah, that's
I'm not going to stop the show. But sometimes people feel like that. Like, oh, well, how would I do that? And in the same way, I can say, after being in a partnership for as long as I have so far, and this is my longest relationship, and we're going on 4 years here in a couple of months, you kind of start to get into that space again where it's like, oh, wait, okay, I can't do things by myself.
Yeah, we don't have to,
like, we don't always have to be together. Like, we
don't
don't always have to travel together. Like, I can go and do things on my own. But you just kind of get into this mode sometimes of like, we just do everything together. And it's like, oh, wait, yeah, we can have separate
I know.
activities.
This is a little bit tangential, but I think that was part of the thing in the pandemic where, like, Jack and I were on top of each other all the time. Mm-hmm. But I think we both started exploring our own interests more that weren't things that we did together.
Yeah.
And that's how we stayed sane. It was like, oh, like, just because I like this thing, you don't also have to like this. Like, I know that sounds so fucking basic, but just to be like, oh, the person that I am in a long-term relationship with does not have to like everything I like.
Right, yeah.
Like, Jack's gonna be over here listening to death metal, and I don't like that. And that's fine. And I love that for him. And I'm over here, and I'm gonna roller skate, and he doesn't have to want to roller skate with me.
Absolutely. And I mean, we, you know, it's like something we have to kind of learn. Like, we have all this togetherness. And I think, you know, also part of our society and the way we build up, you know, our romantic relationships, that they have to be these all fulfilling things. And it's like, oh, actually, no, I can have things that are mine, and you can have things that are yours, and I can have people that are mine, and, you know, you can have people that are yours, and we can have people that are ours. And all the things, you know, and it's all good, you know.
Yeah, that's just a beautiful realization to come to at this juncture in life, I think.
Yes. And so, you know, at that time I was like, yeah, I go and travel and do things. But that was, you know, also during that time still a newer thing, but I was starting to travel more, and I was like, I couldn't depend on my friends at the time to be down. Like, everyone wants to go, but like when it comes down to like, you gonna put the money up? Okay, because I was always like, I'll plan it. Like, I was always the planner. I'll find all the information of this hotel and this, you know, this flight or this, we can drive to here. And, you know, I found the route. I've got MapQuest, you know, because back in the day, way back in the day, you know, it was, you know, there was not Google Maps at all. But yeah, like, I was like, okay, well, I want to go places.
Right. And I don't have to wait for
so I'm gonna have to go.
Yeah.
And it was very, you know, it's a very liberating experience to like do that. And you're like, oh, I kind of like this, because then I can do all the things I want to do.
Yeah, exactly.
I can be selfish, you know, like, if you don't want to go here, or, you know, you don't have to, or I can just do all the things. Very great time in life, like, for that. Travel was really great. I'm trying to see what else. Oh, I put this note in here. I don't know if this is like huge Saturn return, but I cut my hair off for the second time. And it was a good time.
It's a change. It's a drastic change.
Right. Like, and it was, I mean, you know, drastic. Yeah. Because I had cut it off the first time, which was huge then. And it had grown back out, and I had gone, you know, the natural thing is all the black girls are going natural, and we're, you know, connecting with our literal roots. And that was an experience. Yeah. And then I was like, it had grown to a certain point, and I'm like, I'm kind of tired of doing 2-strand twists all the time, and taking 2 hours to do my hair at night. And, you know, maybe it's humid tomorrow, and so then the work is lost.
All for naught. Yep.
I'm tired of this. I'm going to cut this shit off again. And, yeah, it was a good time.
Good for you.
I loved the look.
I did not say this in mine, but, like, I also just recently had a big transition for my hair color.
Yes.
From, like, just, I always, black hair, black like my soul for the longest time. That was it.
Black like my soul.
And it was closer to my natural color, but, like, I was dyeing it darker.
Yeah.
And then one day I was just like, I'm going to be a blonde.
Hello.
And here I am.
Here we are.
Still
2 blondes.
Two blondes. 2 blondes. That sounds like a title of a porno. Don't get any ideas.
There's probably lots of content titled 2 blondes.
Probably. Not really my vibe per se, but
no.
You know, whatever.
Hey, you know, whatever you like. There's something for everybody out there. Okay,
that is true.
Everyone. So the last thing I have on here, which is a sad note to end on, But also as an obstacle, as hardship, my first dog died during my Saturn return.
Bailey?
Bailey. R.I.P. Like, look, I might get emotional. Don't get emotional.
Oh, that's okay. It's allowed. It's allowed.
I saw this picture. As I was going through, and I had taken this video on our way to the vet, like before we had to put her down, and I didn't know that was about to happen at that point in time.
Right.
So that video is like always hard for me to look at because I was like, oh, that was right before. But yeah, that was a really hard time. Yeah. It was a really hard time.
Was that the first time you'd ever lost like a pet?
Not well. I hate to like prioritize or like rank pets.
No,
but
it's
so
yeah.
I had a fish before and a hamster.
Oh, well, that's different.
And so you know, like a dog is a little bit different.
Yeah, you're
that relationship is a little different.
For sure.
And so that was my first like
no, that's man, that's hard. I don't even want to think about
I know
that.
I'm like and even and it took a few years. I went and had a drink last night with my neighbor, like as an early birthday thing, and we were talking about dogs. She recently did some dog sitting, and we've been just laughing about some of the things. But oh God, I'm about to forget.
Dogs, neighbors, drinks.
Wow.
I don't want to think about my dog dying.
Dogs.
It'll come back to us.
Okay, hold on. Wow, I made it through this whole. How did I make it through this whole time? And just now, I forgot. Lost my train of thought.
We were doing real good. But...
Well, okay, so we'll just get back on topic because whatever that tangent was, like, nope, just never mind.
Meant to be.
So yeah, it was a hard time. It did show me kind of who was kind of show up for me. Like, my family was really good about like, not like making it like a trivial thing. Like people were like, no, this is a significant loss. Like one of my best friends, like she showed up, like at the hospital, like this is happening right now. She's like, I'm coming, know, and just like it was there was a lot of support and I appreciated it. But yeah, like tough pieces of your Saturn return. So like, things can happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But overall, like there were a lot of things that grew and came out of that. Oh, that's the side note. That's where I went. Sorry, I came back to it.
Nice.
The thing
good.
we talked
Very good.
about
Yes.
before. The time that it took between having another dog.
Mm-hmm.
There's also some things that came back with like having more free time.
Oh,
or having, your life is different when you have a pet.
Yeah.
Like at home that you have to consider, like being gone or how long leaving them at home. And
you can't just get up and go.
Like there's another, being to consider.
Right.
It's kind of like having kids. I know people hate that comparison.
I acknowledge that it's different, but there are ways.
Right. There are similarities.
Yeah. It is. I don't have kids, and I don't have kids because I'm not ready to make those considerations.
Right, exactly. That is why.
I can barely do it for myself and my dog.
Yes. So, in that similar vein, like, there was like, oh, there's this different time that I had for myself. And so that was kind of coming out of that and part of the Saturn return, but also coming out of that. And then, taking the time to kind of heal before coming back to love another little one.
It's a healthy thing to do.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. And now we have crazy Keith.
Yeah, Keith. I will still stand by. Keith is like the best dog name. It's such a good dog name. And it kind of fits him. Like,
right? He's very much grown into Keith.
He has.
Yeah.
He has.
Everyone thinks it's Keith. And it's like, it's with a F. It's Keith.
Keith.
Like Chief, but not after Chief Keef, but yes, like Chief Keef.
And as soon as we start talking about him, he's not
and then,
he's not barking.
That's very good. Interesting. Check the time. Okay. Oh, we probably need to let them out real quick. So we'll take a little break.
Yeah, we'll come back with our Pisces Preguntas and our Pisces moments of the week before we get out of here.
Hey, let's do it.
And we're back.
Hey.
All right, so we've had a really good little combo about Saturn Returns.
Right. We've learned a lot of things. We did learn, or I did learn a lot of things during the Saturn Return.
So thanks for that great transition. Because we're moving into our Pisces Preguntas, I want to know, as someone who has come out of their Saturn Return, their first one anyway, do you have any advice for me as I'm going through mine?
Wow.
It doesn't have to be anything profound.
It's so interesting. It's like advice, like the thing that we're always told not to give.
Right.
I'm like, oh, advice.
But I'm asking for it.
But you're asking
it's
for
not
it.
Unsolicited.
And that is the difference. I want to say, honestly, is in a very Piscean way, ride the wave, like, because you got to anyway, like a lot of it is, some of the things that you encounter, like, oh, this is outside of my control, and like figuring out what is actually outside of my control and what are the things that I can, change and do something about, and knowing like, there are things that come in your life to like kind of grow you. And growth, like we talk about growth in a way like, oh, it's blossoming and blooming and we're growing, but like if we think about, if we get into plants and get into my plant bag, like literally the struggle of growth,
It's hard.
Growth is hard.
It's hard. It's hard. It hurts.
It hurts. It's hard and it hurts.
It can.
Yeah, it can. And so, hang in there.
That's good. No,
keep hanging. Like my sloth friends, keep hanging in there.
Ride the wave is
Ride the wave.
Really good.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite. I think, is it John Kabat-Zinn, the mindfulness guy, whatever, is like you can't stop the waves from coming, but you can learn to surf.
You can learn to surf,
and I feel like that's
me, the non-swimming Pisces telling someone else. That's another story for another day. But you just kind of have to. So you might as well learn how to just ride them because they're coming.
Yeah.
And some of it, it's like you learn to surf a little bit, like, okay, I'm kind of doing this. Hey. And then you fall down. It's like, okay.
We got to get back up.
Get back up and do it again. And eventually, like, you learn it and you're like, oh. And on the other side of it, you know how to surf.
You know how to surf. This is a good metaphor. I like it.
Yes. And so, come on, Pisces metaphor.
Yes. Perfect.
So I want to read this little excerpt from an article from the New York Post that I thought was a good way of looking at it. One thing it says is the key is to be resilient and resourceful, even though your energy and strength will be weakened. The harder you work now, the further you will go into the 30 years to come. So one must recognize that it's crucial to forget one's ego and swallow their pride, because the universe does not care how great you think you are.
It sure doesn't. It does not give one single fuck.
True greatness is created by one's actions. So this is another key theme that causes people to wake up near these periods, is that they suddenly realize mortality is real. You will not live forever, and you will notice significant changes to your body, mind, and spirit.
Literally was just telling Christine off mic that I needed a stretch break because I was in the car for too long yesterday and I spent a whole week sleeping on someone else's pillow.
And I said, I 100% understand.
Yeah.
Because there is something about 30 that it's kind of funny. Like, it is like when you hit 30 and you just like something in your body feels different. You're like, how is that a thing? Like, literally from 29 to 30. Like, I woke up at 30 like, ooh, hold on, my back, my leg.
No, mine was because I think I partied a little too hard.
Right.
Birthday,
Riding in the car,
Right.
Those long trips feel, and y'all have a long trip.
It's a long drive, yeah, but it was good.
Yeah.
I feel like even with all of the things that make you like kind of be like, oh, I'm kind of realizing my own mortality, my like, adulthood, I feel like, and I imagine that you were in a similar place of like, I'm not trying to deny it, right? It just is what it is, and you got to take it for what it's worth.
Yeah, and like some of it's it's like, you know, some of the ego things that like I thought about, the things that I felt ashamed about at the time, and I'm like, yeah, I mean that's really not a big deal, and it's all part of your story that takes you where you're going. You've accumulated different skills, you've done like these different things, like, oh yeah, and now that transforms into like, oh, Christine's, you know, having her business and, you know, doing her thing. So
beautiful.
They, you know, I'm not gonna say things are, you know, like sunshine and rainbows all the time.
No, but when are they ever?
But, right, like, when is that ever a thing? But
and what's a life without a little bit of spice?
I mean, literally, if we think about it, and this is in that Saturn Return lesson, or the Saturnian lesson, is like, if you don't have the obstacles, what do you end up having?
Right.
Like, if everything's always good, as much as we hate going through shit, and like, we'll acknowledge that, like, going through shit is not fun.
Right.
And it's hard, and it's painful.
But if you're not working towards anything, then
what is life?
Yeah. The journey is the path, and all the other things.
The journey.
That didn't make any sense. Whatever. It's fine. I'm completely sober. Why am I saying things that don't make sense? Whatever.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, yeah. That's you know, mine and the New York Post's
I like it.
reflections and suggestions, advice. Just ride the wave, man. Just keep pushing.
On that note, do we have any Pisces moments of the week that we want to close out with?
Pisces moment of the week. Yeah, sure.
What's your Pisces moment of the week? Or do you want me to go first? I will.
Oh,
if you want.
Either way. What are you thinking? You want to go first?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, so I had several because, you know.
Because we're Pisces.
It was my birthday.
Yes.
You know, I had a nice little, we spent most of the day on my actual birthday driving.
Yeah.
Which was, you know, not great, but I still got to, like, start off with a very, like, I love a slow morning.
Yes.
I just said I had one today. I love a slow morning.
Beautiful.
If I could abolish anything, it would be the, like, 8 to 4, 9 to 5 work day, because I do my best work around 11 a.m.
Listen, from 1 to 3.
Right. Right. But anyway, that was nice. I had a nice slow morning. We drove, we got to see some family. But what I think my Pisces moment of the week is, and I have a friend, and now I have to know what her sign is. I think she told me, but I had a lot to drink on Saturday, and I can't remember. But at my birthday party on Saturday in Kansas City, she's like the queen of icebreakers. Like, she always does this, and it does not matter, like, if she knows anybody, if it's awkward, if they think it's weird, she does not care. She's like, stop, we're doing an icebreaker. And so she said she wanted everyone to go around the room and say, like, A, how they knew me.
Right.
And B, like, what one, like, nice thing about me, which is, like, so cute. Aww. But also, I was sitting there like, I don't know how to take this in.
Very Pisces, like, ooh, one spotlight on me, and you're saying nice things, like, sink into the couch.
And I was drunk, so I was like, oh, this is cute and fun, and you should do it. It's adorable, because I know that's her thing.
Yes.
But then, as it was happening, I was like, I wanted to crawl into a hole, and so I was just trying really hard to, like, be present.
Yeah.
And also, like, feel how I felt. And, like, we've talked about this before, like, it is hard for a Pisces. They are very emotional people. There is a lot of tears.
Yes.
It doesn't usually happen in front of other people.
Yes.
And so, just trying to, like,
Hold it. Mm-hmm.
Sit with it. Not try and make it like funny or jokey. Like just trying to like.
Yep.
And it was hard.
I bet. I mean, like, as you're telling this, I'm like empathizing, like, yeah, like, I think if that were me in that situation, it's either like I'm either trying really hard to hold it or it's going to come out. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm just going to start crying because you're saying all these nice things and you're like, okay.
And then like reflecting on it, like, it was really, really nice to like hear people say, and like a lot of people said like similar things about me that were nice, that like I was like, oh, okay, this is like how people see me. Like, you don't often get a room of like 25 people telling you how they know you and what they love about you, and it was just like really beautiful. But like in the moment I was so just like, remember this, be in your body,
right? Be in your body. Yes, ground yourself. It's okay. I'm like floating.
I know, and anyway, half of the people that were there are probably listening to this podcast. I mean, like, you were being really weird about it.
Just understand, it's a Pisces thing. It's, you know,
It is.
What that just made me think about, and I think you had this experience. Mm-hmm. The job we worked together. I don't know if it's not necessarily your last day, but like we would have this meeting, this goodbye, and like people like
sometimes
go around,
and,
which we all knew was going to happen.
Right. Yep. I had one of these too.
Yes. And so people are like saying these things, and you're just like, I can remember just kind of being like, I'm dissociating.
Yeah.
Like, I'm leaving my body now. Like, you're saying a lot of things, and I'm just trying to smile and take it in.
I am appreciating it.
I'm appreciating, but it is hard to handle.
Yes, exactly.
So
that's my Pisces moment of the week.
I love it.
What about you?
A little floatiness.
Yeah.
So my Pisces moment of the week is a little like just getting into my head. And so I told you when you got here today that I was going back and forth about like whether or not I was going to have alcohol for our recording, because I'm like, okay, you know, we've been having drinks, but also like we tend to record on like a Friday night,
right? And
so, you know, we tend to have, you know, some drinks or some little food, but we're recording today at like noon. I'm like, well, you know, maybe I can make it like a mimosa, like, you know, that'll be fun. And then I started getting to my head like, well, Christine, you don't have to like have drinks, like you don't have to have alcohol. Like sometimes I get into that space, especially with alcohol, that I feel like, well, but we've been doing that, like we've set this tradition, and like literally was going in all these circles with myself. And then I was like, you know what, make some tea.
And it was beautiful.
Like, Shelby likes tea, and I like tea, and it's very, you know, calming. You know, we can have a somewhat sober podcast.
Sober podcast.
Like, you know, like not alcohol infused. But yeah, like that was just kind of a funny in my head, you know, and I think I was actually talking out loud too, talking to myself with this. And I'm like, you know, you don't have to. You know, it's okay.
You don't have to have a substance. You don't have to have a drink.
Right.
Yeah. After that last episode.
Right.
Y'all know we're prone.
Woo. Like, I hope you enjoyed that. I haven't listened to it yet. I'll be honest. I haven't
given it. I uploaded the files, but I have not given it a full, thorough listen.
Yeah. It's still on it'll probably get listened to early next week.
What I did listen to, I was like, it is better than I thought it would be.
Good.
There's still some moments where, woo. But I don't know. Y'all tell us what you think.
Right. Let us know.
Between last week and this week, there's a big difference
I'm
in
sure.
the headspaces that we are in.
Absolutely.
At least me. Maybe I should speak for you, but...
At least half of,
Yeah.
I did pretty good today. I'm like, I don't feel like we'll see what the timer is on. I'm like, at some points I did feel like, ooh, I was talking kind of long.
You know, if this is just a 2.5-hour podcast forever, that's okay.
And then there's the standard, you know. We'll just try not to stretch it to 4.
It's okay for you to stop and come back later
Yeah.
Or listen to us while you're doing your laundry. You know, we're just talking.
Yeah. Like, I mean, I feel like, do most people like do other things when they're listening to podcasts? I feel like that's how I listen.
I do.
Yeah.
That's why I like them so much.
Right.
It helps me like get through, cooking, cleaning.
Mundane tasks.
Yeah, exactly.
Work.
Yeah, some people, maybe somebody's picking at an Amazon warehouse right now.
Listen, no, that would have helped. Listen, I got there to, well, I don't think any time would be good for me in that type of work. But, again, I'm a Pisces, and we are...
Did you know?
Right. Did you know? I'm a Pisces. Some people would say we're lazy. I'm not going to say lazy, but also my spirit animal is a sloth. So running around in a rat race is not a good time at all for me.
I don't think that's what we were meant to do.
I want to move slowly. Slow mornings are amazing. I'm like, a slow morning. Yeah.
Feels good. Well, anything else before we get out of here?
I think we have talked about a lot of the things. Yeah.
Ooh, well, should we tell our listeners where they can find us?
Absolutely.
If they have Saturn Returns stories.
Tell us your Saturn Returns stories. Those of you, 16% of us that have gone through them.
Or if you're in the middle of it and
or if you're in the middle.
Struggling.
Yes. Tell it. Yeah.
Tell us.
So,
where can they find us?
Where can they find us? That sounded, never mind. I was like, the connection there was, no, that wasn't for the podcast. So our email address is suchapiscespod@gmail.com, and we're going to do the spell out. Side note,
what?
Yesterday, after, a session, I found a little song in my head of the Pisces spell out.
Okay, sing it for us.
Let's do it on the next one. Let me record it first. Let me record myself doing it first.
Okay.
Because I want to make sure I remember it right and I'm not sounding crazy on it. But it might be cute. We'll see. Okay. We'll put some music with it and see if we can do something with it. So anyways, SuchaPiscespod@gmail.com.
We're also at Such a Pisces Pod, same spelling, on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook soon.
So I've created the page.
Okay. I'm Such a Pisces Podcast.
Again, by the time you hear this, all of that will be...
Hopefully.
All of that will be running smoothly.
We've said it before, if you're listening to podcasts on Facebook, why?
But you don't have these other platforms? But that's cool. Do what you do.
You do you.
I've been interested to see some of the, the demographics of, who's listening on what kind of platforms. And, of course, our biggest is Spotify, then Apple, and then we get into, web browsers. And so I'm like, who's listening on a web browser? Okay.
It's funny that you say that. I think one of my friends is listening on a web browser.
Hey,
because she told me, she's like, I have two accounts, and one's on my phone, and then I also have a separate account through a different, whatever, on my web browser. And she was like, yeah, I was working, so I wasn't really listening, but I turned it down and just let it play. And I was like, we've got our own little click farm over here.
Yes.
With our one friend. Thanks, Sierra.
I just let it play. Thank you. Also, let it play out.
Right.
That helps. That helps too, y'all.
Every little bit helps. We're almost there. Y'all might start getting advertisements.
Yeah.
Before you know it.
Maybe it might be on this episode. We'll see. If you hear an ad, if you heard an ad during this episode.
Right. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
All right. Well, on that note,
let's get out of here.
See y'all next week.